Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So a recent anniversary passed under our noses, and it's kind of a significant one and kind of mind-blowing. This November marked the 25th anniversary of the first International Space Station component being launched into space. And in reading up on this launch, I found this awesome video that shows, over the passage of time, the entire ISS being assembled. What parts came first, where they went, and on what days. And again, the ISS represents the most complicated international engineering project ever built. So seeing this video of it being like rapidly assembled just brought some joy to my nerdy heart. So how could I not share it with you guys? So get cozy, let's jump back in time a little bit and take a look. So on November 20th, 1998, the first component of the ISS was launched from Kazakhstan atop a Proton rocket, taking just about 10 minutes to ride up to its preliminary orbit. This was the culmination of work by 5 different space agencies, representing 15 different countries. That first module, Zarya, is still being used today. Less than 2 weeks later, in December of 1998, a U.S. mission launched carrying a second piece of ISS, the module Unity. And this began the dozens of launches to slowly but surely assemble the ISS. And this is what doing that looks like. It's just very satisfying. Right now, the station is about 360 feet or 110 meters across all the arrays. It's a beast, basically the size of an American football field, including the end zones. And there's this really cool graphic that lists all of the components of the space station, which has actually been really helpful for me in making these videos. Sometimes I'll reference something happening in, say, the Japanese experiment module, but I'll have no idea where that is on the ISS. And this is my super helpful map. Also, it's even color-coded so you can see which components are from which agency. The ISS continually hosts about 7 astronauts, and the first of those arrived on November 2nd, 2000. It has been continually occupied for 23 years, 1 month, and as of this recording, 1 day. Nearly 300 astronauts have visited the ISS. And they've done everything from growing lettuce and flowers to conducting thousands of experiments to doing hundreds of spacewalks to exercising 2 hours a day every day in order to mitigate muscle and bone loss. They are super busy up there. Now, with the International Space Station scheduled to retire in 2030, NASA is placing a huge emphasis on a seamless shift to future private space stations in low Earth orbit. Now, many details of this transition are a bit murky, but having a seamless transition is very important to NASA. According to ISS Director Robin Gattens, the reason this is so important is because we do believe that the impact of a gap will be disruptive. A few key players who could be impacted by this potential gap include scientists looking to send research experiments to space and crew and cargo transportation providers like SpaceX. Given NASA's expected 2-year transition period, a commercial successor must be operating by 2028 to prevent any such complications. After the ISS retires, NASA is likely to operate a national laboratory that would support various commercial platforms. platforms. Although details are few, the LEO National Lab, which is still a working name, is expected to represent all government-sponsored research to be carried out on a combination of available private space stations. And the main reason that ISS is even being retired has a lot to do with this recent anniversary. 25 years is a long time in the world of space, and a lot has changed in space hardware since 1998. The ISS, as spectacular as it is getting a bit out of date. And I remember reading about that in Scott Kelly's book, where he said you can really feel the age of the space station when you are living in it for a year. So how does one retire a space station, you may ask? Yeah, it's what you think. It is deorbited and brought back into Earth's atmosphere, and then whatever is left crashes into the ocean. This is thought to be happening in 2031, and when it does, it will be the largest re-entry in history. So big that NASA asked Congress for funding to start development of a space tug, a spacecraft that will be used to knock the station out of orbit. And this vehicle could cost just shy of $1 billion. Billion with a B. However, it's not like we haven't had space stations come back down to Earth before. Both Russia's Mir station and NASA's Skylab went this way. But the issue is really the size. The ISS is more than 3 times the size of Mir. And dealing with 400 metric tons of space station falling out of the sky, it's definitely a thing. Now, we're a ways away from this. We're going to be on like Artemis 5 or 6, I think, by the time this happens. But still, you gotta shop early when you're planning on deorbiting a space station. Currently, ISS partners Japan, Canada, and the European Space Agency have committed to supporting the ISS until its phased retirement in 2030. Russia has confirmed its support only until 2028, after which it will focus on building its own orbital space station, whose first module is due to launch in 2027. So for me, I think this just demonstrates how unique the ISS really is, and looking back, will be. It truly is international, and that might end up being a one-time thing. Moving forward, it sounds like there might be more space stations built by private companies or for specific purposes. But to have this one station that was really this super collaboration between many space agencies and many more countries is something that I think should be celebrated. And I plan on doing that until this whole thing literally comes crashing down. I'll post a link to NASA's ISS website in the description below. It includes some really interesting stats and tons of videos and even a daily blog, so feel free to check it out. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.